This is As We See It with Phil Hulett and Friends. I'm Phil Hulett. I thank you for tuning in. This is the show where we bring you the stories behind the stories that matter in your life. We'll tell you something maybe you didn't know. Hear from the experts, the authors, the others, and we hope to put a little smile on your face along the way. But in every case, we call it As We See It. On today's show, a potentially deadly disease is breaking out in L.A. County. We'll tell you what you need to know to stay safe. You'll hear from a guy who thinks you should embrace death as a fact of life. And you are a guaranteed winner when you hear the untold story behind the scenes at Publishers Clearinghouse. Let's meet the friends. She's finally home. We're happy to have Jennifer Bjorklund.
Can you imagine waking up in a body bag in a freezing cold mortuary drawer?
Lovely. Jay Cappadonia is here.
Well, it's about time Jen showed up for work. The president gave us the word of the month.
And the young guy on the crew, Chris Martin.
Doing too much of this could kill you.
All right. That and more all coming up. Let's get started. Jennifer, you've piqued my interest with that box in the morgue thing.
Oh, it was July 2010. 80-year-old Maria de Jesus Arroyo had a heart attack. Doctors pronounced her dead at Boyle Heights White Memorial Hospital. At her funeral, her family notices she has a broken nose and cuts on her face that weren't there when she died. They thought the hospital mishandled her body, and now they believe she was still alive in there in the morgue drawer.
They believe.
They believe. They got to prove it, but there's a lawsuit against the hospital that got a green light that said, you know what? You go ahead. Try to prove it.
How is it possible that could happen? You hear the stories from time to time that somebody's buried alive.
Right.
Or somebody gets unzipped in the morgue, and then they sit up and they gasp. And can you imagine working in the morgue and that happens?
Well, no, I can't. I can't imagine working in the morgue and that happens. But can you imagine being in you're first of all sitting in your house, you pass out because that's what happened to her. She just collapsed in her house. The next thing she knows,
you instantly have the best story at the canasta party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's a nightmare to wake up in a body bag.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it is, Jay. Exactly.
That poor lady.
Well, Jen, back in the 50s, there was a revolution, the late 50s, there was a revolution in Cuba. Is there a social media revolution happening now?
Well, someone has planted a seed. How do you get Cuba's youth to rise up against the government? How about give them their own version of Twitter? Well, it turns out the U.S. government masterminded and launched a social network just for that purpose. The Associated Press is reporting that it's an Obama administration project that lasted more than 2 years. It did get tens of thousands of subscribers, and it sought to evade Cuba's stranglehold on the internet with a pretty primitive social media platform. First, the network would build a Cuban audience, mostly young people. Then the plan was to push them toward dissent. But the question is that really legal? Can they do that?
Well, it's probably illegal in Cuba.
Well, I'm sure a lot of things are illegal in Cuba, but if this was a U.S. government thing, can they really do that?
Yeah. You say it was a primitive internet thing?
Yeah.
Was it healthcare.gov?
Zing!
Good one, Phil.
I've been working on that one for a while. While we're on the internet subject, can a web browser be political?
Apparently. Now, if you heard in the last few days that you'd better quit using Firefox if you support gay marriage, well, it worked. Mozilla co-founder Brendan Eich is stepping down as CEO after protests of his support of a gay marriage ban in California. He gave $1,000 to Prop 8. Now he's gone, and Mozilla's chairwoman is apologizing.
Prop 8, that was a proposition that California passed in 2009 that defined marriage as a union between a man and a woman.
Exactly. So he gave $1,000 to that, and then he was promoted to, to chair position, a presidential position.
Now, was Mozilla losing money? Was that more of the reason why he stepped down?
Yeah, I heard that they had there were some retailers, online retailers that had disabled Firefox from actually using.
Really?
Yes, getting on their platform, that they were telling their shoppers, use Safari, use something
Chrome,
else.
use
Chrome,
IE. Yeah,
use
all right.
Internet Explorer.
People still use IE?
Jay, though, a lot of
I
people
use
do.
Firefox.
A lot of people.
I like Firefox, and I was really troubled to hear that
I
there
liked
was
it
a
too.
political. I mean, come on, it's a web browser.
Right, but don't you
Political.
think that if you've got the bucks, you should be able to donate or give to anybody? I mean, Jen, like if you're making X number of dollars, you should be able to give it to whoever you want.
Exactly.
Despite what your
and
job is.
you should also, as a consumer, be able to vote with your dollars for who you agree to support.
Well, that's
so
how the world goes around.
Exactly.
So I'm with you, Jay. You should be able to support whatever you want. But if it hurts, if people don't agree with you and you lose customers because of it,
Exactly.
so if he's stepping down, I just wanted to clarify that he's stepping down perhaps because it's hurting business and not because people with torches and pitchforks are outside his house.
Exactly.
All right.
That's why.
Okay. Jay, while we're talking political, our President Obama, just added an awesome word to our lexicon.
The greatest word I think I've ever heard come out of Obama's mouth. So, Representative Paul Ryan from Wisconsin and former vice presidential candidate had a budget proposal, right? So Obama's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he's eating at this, really famous deli out there, and they've got sandwiches and burgers and salads. Typical thing that you would find in a deli out here. No big deal, right? So he walks out and he's talking about the proposed budget plan from the Wisconsin lawmaker, and he says, if the deli had a name for that budget, he'd call it a stink burger.
Stink burger.
Stink burger.
All right. That's mark that amongst the list of great accomplishments by this president.
I'm going to see if it'll trend on
Even
Twitter
if
later
the
on.
top 10 accomplishments, if they could just reserve the 10th spot for stink burger.
Stink burger.
Don't you think, Jay?
I think it would be phenomenal. I'm going to start using it from now on. Like, you know what? I don't like you. You're a stink burger. That's just the way it is.
It sounds so juvenile, like you're going to hear that in elementary school now.
Absolutely. That's what makes it so awesome.
What did you find there, Jen?
He said the alternative would be the mean witch. They'd have to call it the stink burger or the mean witch.
Like sandwich,
like
mean witch.
a mean sandwich.
Oh.
Do you think he got it from his daughters, those words?
I don't know, Chris. Maybe he did.
Yeah.
They're a little young. They're about that
Right.
age.
Yeah.
Well,
younger generation.
They're adolescent. I
Yeah,
don't
Right, but you remember Full House. Everyone
Right.
remembers
Jen, they're
Full
only
House.
a little younger than Chris.
That's true.
Have you
Yeah.
seen recent pictures of them? They are growing up.
They are
Yeah.
growing
Yeah.
up, but
Those two
I
girls
was
are
going to
growing
say they're not like 6 or 7. They're not like
No, but everyone remembers Full House, and their big slam on somebody was Nerd Burger. I loved Nerd Burger. So Stink Burger is now the top of the list for me.
I'm with it. I love it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Exactly.
All right, Chris, we all want to stay fit. We all want to stay healthy and trim, and we want healthy hearts.
Yes, we do.
You have a little story for us?
I do. Excessive running can lead to serious heart issues, and a new study warns that people who constantly pound the pavement have similar lifespans to couch potatoes.
Wait a minute.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right?
You
Jay
gotta
likes
love
this
this story, Jay,
I
right?
love this story. Keep going, sir.
Well, Chris, what do you mean by excessive jogging?
Well, excessive jogging would include running more than 2.5 hours per week, spread out, and maybe more than 2 or 3 days a week. Some heart doctors are advising that if you want to run a marathon, do so and get it off your list, but don't do it too often because there's a sweet spot for jogging, and that's, as I said, 2 to 3 times a week, total of 2.5 hours, and any more than that could lead to scarring of the heart, atrial fibrillation, toxic disease of the arteries.
So
See, Chris,
run
this
it-
is why I like just waking up, going to the couch, and ordering pizza. That way I don't hurt
Well,
my
that's
heart.
just as unhealthy, Jay.
Oh,
That's just as unhealthy.
is?
Moderacy is the key.
And let's talk about quality of life too. If you're fit and you feel good, it's better.
Wait,
That's exactly
I take exception to that, Jen, because my
course you
quality of
do.
life with beer and pizza is phenomenal.
How about beer, pizza, and running?
Say no.
That's
no.
my
And
life.
Jen, I don't want to undersell that part either
Yeah.
because running is good for weight loss. It's good for stress reduction. It's good for cardiovascular circulation. You just don't want to do it to excess, just like anything else in life.
And
All right.
it's bad for your knees,
That too, yeah. It's bad on your joints,
depending
pounding.
on how you
See,
do.
pizza's not
Well-
bad on the knees, Phil.